As the 1980s ended and a new decade rolled around, a technological breakthrough came about to the public masses in America, which was the internet. And as the internet entered into the homes of Americans, it brought major changes to American life, but not without consequences. With the change in cultural and technology in America in the 1980s, an age of entertainment, materialism, and consumerism took place. With this boom, entertainment grew with shows like MTV and arcade games like Pac-Man, along with the rise of malls.
Thanks very much. Well, one of the most successful home computers of all time was certainly the old Commodore 64. It came out back in 1982, and there are still millions of loyal C64 users. We have a report.
A Toys R Us store is a mecca for children, a place to buy games and toys. But there are more than just toys here. Tucked away in one of the aisles is the computer department and the good old Commodore 64. This granddaddy of home computers has withstood the test of time. Since its introduction in 1982, it has sold over 10 million units. That makes the C64 still the computer with the largest installed user base. Scott Lytle owns a Commodore 64, and he says there is a good reason why the C64 has survived as the most popular home computer.
I think because it's a fairly easy computer to use. You don't need to know MS-DOS like IBM you do, and it's just an overall user-friendly computer.
The 64K limit of the Commodore seems primitive in these days of 1 megabyte personal computers. But the good old C64 can hold its own running spreadsheets, databases, and word processors. And for the kid in you, the Commodore 64 has always been a great game machine with color and sound. The life of the C64 was also extended a few years ago when Berkeley Softworks came out with the GEOS, a graphical user interface and operating system for the Commodore, which expanded its use into desktop publishing and graphics. But the real strength of the C64 comes down to two basic features.
A lot of the other systems, for me, are a little too expensive, and Commodore's an inexpensive way to get started in computing. Besides the price, I like the availability of software. There's lots of titles to choose from.
More than 2,000 retail outlets still sell the Commodore 64. This particular store sells about 5 a month. And while you can't expect to find much customer support at a store like this, there is still a 24-hour toll-free customer support line for the good old Commodore 64.
During this time, the home computer market was determined to put a computer into every household, which led to computers like the Commodore 64 to target mass consumers, which in the following decade allowed for the explosive growth of home computers and thus the internet. The internet was quite limited in its early stages due to its early exclusivity and cost of connection. But to reach more researchers and to improve upon productivity, monopolies were destroyed in favor of something more open. The researchers which you see in front of you worked on the Computer Science Network. They visioned to connecting all computer scientists, as it will change the way they do research. This shows an early will to expand the network further. As with such an exclusive network, the base of the internet would be severely limited, as data is crucial to such a network becoming effective. One of such monopolies was AT&T, as it had a regulated monopoly over telecommunications. They believed that data communications were irrelevant. They focused on protecting their network from foreign devices. This led to a lawsuit in 1968 that mandated easy attachments to foreign devices. This allowed firms to sell modems, multiplexers, which also allowed for data communications to exist. The different interests in the corporation later led to the dismantling of AT&T, which was agreed upon in 1982 but was legally finished in 1984. What this new division focused on was the now changing landscape in communication.
AT&T has a new vision: to make the information age universal, not just open to all, but inviting, to help bring about a worldwide telecommunity. We are now working toward the day, not very far off, when people around the world will be able to handle information in any form, conversation, data, images, text, as easily as they make a phone call today. And they'll be able to get information in a form they can use whenever they need it, from wherever it is.
As the internet was pushed into the public, several providers through dial-up and later Ethernet were able to provide for the seemingly infinitely growing user base. One of the most popular was AOL, as they pushed aggressively into the market. But that's not to say that they were a bad service, as it offered an experience which was mindless, like another part of you, as you completed your tasks across the internet.
A new way to use your computer to communicate, have fun, and get instant news and information.
Flowers are sent. Now let's access the online travel service.
How long have you had this?
About a week. And it's so easy. All you do is point and click.
But how does it work?
All you need is a computer and a regular phone line. They send you the software and give you 10 free hours to check it out.
Call now for your free America Online Startup Kit and get free software and 10 free online hours. It's everything you need to get online.
Plane tickets are ordered. Now, let's look up dinosaurs. What do you think? Compton's Encyclopedia or National Geographic?
You get all that with America Online?
Yeah, you can read Business Week online before it hits the newsstand. Update your stock portfolio every 15 minutes with PC Quote. You can even play fantasy football.
As the internet grew, so did its impact on daily life, with 90% of internet users saying it has played a role in their routine, and 2/3 saying that it's played a key role in their routine, and if the internet were to go down, it would affect them greatly. Most of them gave it a high opinion for conducting daily tasks, such as finding out information, communication, transactions, and entertainment. But even with such a high acceptance of the internet for their daily lives, they haven't fully made the switch, as the majority reports both online and online use, rather than exclusive use. But there is one exception, which is navigation. This shows that with the internet, it provided a place where most were happy with its output, but weren't completely devoted to it. However, the majority of users were still dependent on the internet for daily tasks, and at one time, the internet were to go down, like with AOL in 1996, it would affect them greatly.
It could be called the silence of the techno-nerds. The world's largest computer service, America Online, went down yesterday for 19 hours, taking with it millions of subscribers who were suddenly cut off from their information wonderland.
6 million people were taken offline. An electronic community of 6 million people were blacked out. You couldn't have electronic chat sessions online, and you couldn't get instant news and stock quotes.
Starfish Software in Scotts Valley, California, was having a big day, launching a new product when America Online cut them off from their potential customers.
We first kind of just looked at each other and said, gosh, now what do we do?
For some net heads and geeks, and that's what they call themselves, the crash of America Online left them feeling lost in cyberspace.
Basically, the entire thing had crashed.
And your reaction?
Oh my God, what am I going to do?
First thing of all for many netheads was having to resort to a more primitive technology. Telephones and faxes. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, New York.
As the internet became more commonplace by the end of the decade, an effect on one's mental health and social life was found and was becoming more and more damaging. And its effects were more prominent the longer you used it, and all of these effects are still noticeable, even more prominent than ever in our modern age. This was done at the expense of time calling family and friends, and time on conversations. In conclusion, with the emergence of the internet to the public, an age of information began, but as it grew, concerns flourished under the rise of the internet. This has shown that many of the modern concerns about the internet have existed for a long time and still persist today. Although we do know more about its effects than in 1990s, we persist to make the problem bigger and more damaging. Back in 2001, D. Migo wrote in his study that the social impact of the internet depends on the impact of society on what the internet becomes, and I don't think we've done such a good job.